A highly unusual weather setup is now taking shape across the United States, and it's expected to trigger several rounds of stormy weather throughout this week. However, unlike the constant back-to-back severe weather outbreaks that are common this time of year, this pattern is much more complicated and unpredictable. A major atmospheric shift is moving into place, bringing cooler air, widespread thunderstorm chances, and the possibility of isolated severe weather events developing with very little warning. Forecasting situations like this can become extremely difficult because even tiny changes in the jet stream can quickly increase the threat for tornadoes, destructive winds, and large hail. There's a lot to break down over the next 7 days, so let's jump right into the forecast. First of all, happy Memorial Day to everyone across the country. Hopefully, you're able to enjoy the holiday safely, although weather conditions are expected to create some issues in several regions today. Parts of the southeast and sections of the Great Plains are expected to see numerous thunderstorms, and a few of those storms may become severe. The Storm Prediction Center has highlighted 3 separate zones where isolated severe weather is possible, including portions of Minnesota, the Central Plains, and areas near the Texas and New Mexico border. There's also concern that a couple of stronger storms could develop in the southeast as well. Yesterday, tornado warnings were issued in parts of Georgia, and today's primary threats once again include damaging winds, hail, and a small but still possible tornado risk. As we move into Tuesday, the severe weather potential is expected to increase over Texas. A level 2 out of 5 slight risk has been issued, while parts of Montana and Idaho remain under a marginal severe weather threat. The biggest concerns in these areas will be powerful wind gusts and hail, including the possibility for very large hailstones south of Leech, where some supercell thunderstorms could develop. There is also a low-end tornado threat in place. Residents near Midland and Odessa should stay weather-aware and have a tornado safety plan ready just in case conditions intensify rapidly. Then comes Wednesday, where forecasting becomes even more uncertain. A broad thunderstorm risk is expected across multiple regions, but the exact placement of severe storms remains difficult to pinpoint. Much of the severe weather setup appears to be mesoscale driven, meaning small-scale atmospheric features will determine where storms become strongest. Because of this, confidence in exact storm locations is still fairly low, although a clearer picture should emerge as we get closer to Wednesday. Now let's focus on the short-term weather pattern beginning with Memorial Day itself. At the moment, conditions are relatively calm in many areas. Some showers and isolated thunderstorms are active across the Deep South, while heavy rain continues over much of New England. Fortunately, that rain in the Northeast should gradually move out later this morning, allowing for much better conditions during the afternoon for outdoor Memorial Day events. Meanwhile, the Southeast is expected to become more active later today as scattered thunderstorms increase in coverage. Alabama and Georgia may see a few stronger storms capable of producing isolated hail, damaging winds, and perhaps even a brief tornado. While the severe threat is not especially high, it's still something residents should closely monitor throughout the afternoon and evening hours. Lightning will also be a major concern, especially for people spending time outdoors. Remember, lightning strikes can occur more than 10 miles away from the main storm. By late afternoon, showers and gusty conditions will begin affecting portions of the Pacific Northwest as well. But the main focus remains on the southern plains and the southeast, where storms are expected to rapidly strengthen between roughly 4 p.m. and 5 p.m. Conditions near the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex could resemble yesterday's setup, where isolated severe storms developed alongside areas of localized flooding. Any thunderstorm that stalls over one location could quickly produce flooding problems. At the same time, thunderstorms are expected to become widespread across Alabama and Georgia, creating a stormy and potentially dangerous evening for travelers returning from Memorial Day plans. Areas across Georgia, Alabama, and South Carolina may deal with heavy rain, lightning, reduced visibility, and much slower traffic conditions because of the weather. Storm activity should gradually weaken later tonight across Texas and Oklahoma, although a few isolated storms may still pop up across Nebraska and South Dakota. The southeast, however, is expected to remain active well into the evening. As we head into Tuesday morning, weather conditions should briefly improve in some locations before storms redevelop later in the day. By Tuesday afternoon, scattered to widespread thunderstorms are expected from New Orleans through Atlanta and into Charlotte. At the same time, severe weather could quickly intensify across the Texas Panhandle, where all hazards including large hail, damaging winds, and isolated tornadoes may become possible. Wisconsin could also see thunderstorms during the afternoon and evening, though severe weather there currently appears unlikely. Some small hail may still occur with stronger cells. By around 3 p.m. Tuesday, storms near Odessa and Leech may become more organized, with a few supercells capable of producing giant hail and perhaps a brief tornado. Farther north, areas near Woodward and Garden City may mainly deal with straight-line winds and pockets of hail. Later during the evening, these storms are expected to merge into a larger line of thunderstorms moving eastward. Communities near Abilene could see strong storms during the evening hours, while the Deep South continues to experience scattered springtime thunderstorms. Severe weather in the southeast on Tuesday currently appears more limited, although lightning and heavy rainfall will still be common. By late evening, the thunderstorm line across Texas may produce damaging wind gusts as it approaches Wichita Falls and surrounding communities. Overnight, storms are expected to weaken while moving into the Dallas-Fort Worth area and toward Killeen, though gusty winds and thunder may still wake some residents overnight. Wednesday's severe weather outlook remains uncertain. At this time, 2 primary areas are being monitored. One area stretches across Arkansas, Louisiana, and Mississippi, where isolated damaging winds and large hail may occur. Another zone extends from St. Louis into Indianapolis and northern Kentucky, where isolated severe thunderstorms are also possible. The Texas Panhandle may once again see additional storms, although confidence remains low due to the highly mesoscale nature of the setup. Looking farther ahead, there is both good news and bad news regarding the longer-term forecast. The good news is that no widespread major severe weather outbreak currently appears likely in the near future. The bad news is that repeated rounds of storms are expected over the next couple of weeks, and some of those days could still produce significant localized severe weather. The upper-level jet stream pattern this week is expected to remain somewhat unfavorable for a large, organized severe weather outbreak. A large ridge of high pressure is expected across the southeast, while a deep trough remains parked along the west coast. That western trough will likely bring rain to parts of the Pacific coast, but newer forecast models suggest it may stay farther west instead of ejecting across the Rockies as earlier projections hinted. Previously, some weather models showed the possibility of this system moving eastward and triggering a larger severe weather outbreak across the plains. Fortunately, newer guidance suggests the system may remain closer to the west coast before eventually lifting northward later this week. This overall setup is part of what meteorologists call an omega block pattern. In this case, a strong ridge sits across the central United States while powerful low-pressure systems remain positioned to the west and east. Patterns like this often reduce the likelihood of widespread organized severe weather outbreaks, although thunderstorms can still occur frequently. By next weekend and into early June, this blocked pattern is expected to continue. However, longer-range forecast models suggest that stronger trough systems may eventually begin ejecting across the Rockies again sometime during the second half of the first week of June. If that happens, the severe weather pattern could become more active and organized once again around June 6th and 7th. Flooding is also becoming a growing concern, especially across the southeast. Between now and Sunday, widespread rainfall totals of 1 to 4 inches are expected across many areas including Dallas, Shreveport, Little Rock, and Knoxville. South of Birmingham toward New Orleans and Pensacola, rainfall totals may reach 2 to 5 inches, with isolated spots potentially receiving 5 to 7 inches before everything ends. This repeated rainfall on already saturated ground raises the risk for flash flooding later this week, especially across parts of Dixie Alley. Meanwhile, much of the Midwest is expected to remain surprisingly dry over the next several days. Outside of the rain arriving today across portions of Seattle, Portland, and Spokane, the western United States also looks fairly dry overall. Farmers across the Midwest may continue struggling with a lack of rainfall for crops if this pattern persists. Another major concern through this entire stretch of weather will be lightning. Anyone living in or near the highlighted storm zones should make sure they have a reliable way to receive weather alerts and lightning notifications. Thunderstorms across the southeast, Texas, and Oklahoma are expected to produce frequent lightning over the next several days. As always, stay weather aware this week because conditions can change quickly with a pattern like this. Additional forecast updates will likely be needed over the coming days as the atmosphere becomes more active heading into early June.